Hello everyone, my name is Eric and I'm the developer of an upcoming action platformer game called GB Rover, which is a game about shooting your bosses and fighting for a better world. And yeah, this is this week's development update thing video, although there isn't really that much in terms of like updating about the game's development, because as I said last week, apologies, it's kind of finished aside from like fixing smaller stuff that might come up or might not come up, like whether or not like I find it or someone else finds it. But anyway, let's talk about what I planned to do last week and what I did do last week and what I'm planning on doing this week and all that fun stuff. So what I planned to do was basically prepare all the stuff that I need to announce the game's release date, which will be tomorrow, like on September 9th. So it's not that far away. So the release date will be announced like September 9th is not the release date. But anyway, so this is like all stuff that I wanted to prepare for that. I did make a new trailer, I wanted to make a new trailer, I wanted to make some new screenshots, both things just to like reflect some of the changes I made or like the improvements I made in terms of like the game's presentation. I wanted to update the store page with the trailers and new screenshots, wanted to create a list for press to contact and prepare all the rest around that. What I did this week was I did make a new trailer, which is basically just like in terms of like I updated the footage. The structure of the trailer is still the same because I like the way it's structured and I don't see a reason to change it. I basically just replaced the footage with newer footage, and like it's interesting to see, and like you might see it like if you can compare the older trailer with the newer trailer in some respect on my YouTube channel or whatever. It's interesting to see how much like these very subtle changes I did, like in terms of like visual presentation and added stuff and like slightly changing mechanics, like in terms of how the dash, for example, behaves, how much of an impact this actually has. And I'm really glad that I made the decision to like update these things, because again, it reflects the game in a kind of like better light. I did make new screenshots. I did not like replace all screenshots on the game Steam page, but mostly those where I like had the impression that I had better ones. So like I don't have to like replace every screenshot, because not every screenshot has elements in it that have been changed in the meantime, but those that had them or where I felt like I had better ones at that point, I did replace that. I added a new GIF to the game store page, again to reflect the changes in the presentation of the game. I did create an email template to send out to press, but so far I like barely did any work for the actual like list of people I want to contact, because as I was sitting down yesterday to start doing this, and like looked over like my old press list and like tried to figure out, okay, like who do I have to contact this time around, like how far do I want to reach out and all that kind of stuff, I just immediately got very, very frustrated, like also partially because it like maybe like for some reason it's much harder to find, for example, like specific editors' email addresses. What I say, well, for some reason I'm pretty sure I can understand why it's a bit harder to find those email addresses. Like, for example, like for a long time Rock Paper Shotgun had each of their writers' email address on their homepage. That's not the case anymore. There's only the general here's how you contact Rock Paper Shotgun, like their general contact email address. I still have one of the editors' email addresses from the press list I did years ago. But it's, again, I can understand why, because, you know, video games sometimes isn't the most welcoming place to people. And some people use these publicly available like addresses to like just throw hate at people without any real rhyme or reason. So again, this is like then stuff where you have to like remove some access like to people, which then again makes stuff harder for like people like me who just want to tell someone that they have a game that they would like to get coverage of or whatever. So yeah, that was like kind of frustrating and annoying, and I also ran into this normal problem, and I think this is like a combination of me being frustrated with like not really knowing where to go with this, and then not really wanting to do the work, that I then ran into the thoughts of, oh well, no one is going to cover it anyway, so why would you even bother with it? Like, or like why, like kind of like the thoughts of like I'm wasting everyone's time if I'm doing that, which is complete garbage. Like, because like so many people are sending like emails to like sites and don't get coverage. Like, it's not a big deal if I do it as well. Like, I'm not going to get a medal if I'm like considerate and say, oh no, I don't want to bother you too much, so I'm not going to tell you about my game, because again, it's stupid. Like, there's no like that email, like that place in the overflowing email inbox is going to be filled by something else instead, so who cares? But this is like stuff that then got into my head, and I just was like so ugh, and just didn't do it. So that's still something that I have to do, which like brings me to what I have to do this week, is actually finish the press list. I think like just before I started recording, I just thought, why don't I just like throw it everywhere? Like, who cares? Like, really, who cares? Like, just throw it at everyone that you can think of, regardless of how, like, if they will look at it or not or whatever. It really doesn't matter really at that point. Just, again, also to understand this as practice and as a way for me to get more comfortable with this. Because, again, if I'm planning on releasing more games in the future, this is stuff that I have to do every time. And the more comfortable I get with that process, the easier it gets for me and the less stress, energy, and time it takes me to do it. So it's best to just like go ahead with that and just like do what you have to do. One thought I had yesterday is to also try and pick out just not really like outlets that I would like for like them to cover my game, which again, don't get me wrong, would be cool, but try more to like look at specific people where I think that they might be interested in the game, and not as much to like think, okay, they will write up a like short blurb on their website or whatever. But this is also like a thing, okay, how much time do I still have, because I kind of have to get this done until today, like in the evening, because I would really like to like send out these emails like today, like later today, like at around like 8 p.m. or whatever, so that like ideally it is in their inbox tomorrow when those people start working or whatever. And again, you could make some thoughts about, okay, what would be the ideal day and time and whatever, but I'm not going to bother with this, because again, the likelihood of them covering the game isn't as high anyway. And for me, this is just about like going through the process, and like even if like they don't cover like the announcement of the release date or whatever, if like the message and the email is just enough for them to like keep the game in the back of their heads until it gets out or whatever, that would help a lot, because that might increase the likelihood of them covering the game at a later point, which again, like especially for larger press outlets, is incredibly unlikely that this would happen. But again, like there's really no harm in trying, like aside from them maybe thinking that I'm not like that I have some like issues or whatever, but like who cares? I'm not going to meet these people anyway, and I'm not insulting them in my email. I'm just asking them if they have considered shooting their bosses. I'm so proud of my email template, really, because I said to myself, well, I'm going to go lean in as hard as I can into all of this, into all of the rhetoric that I've been using with the game, and I'm not going to stop with the press email template, and this way I at least have some fun with that. And yeah, we'll have to see how today goes. I'm going to try my best that it's going to end well, but we'll have to see. I'm going to like focus much more on like trying to make sure that the things that I can control on my end, like in terms of like communication and outreach, goes as well as possible. And the rest that like happens like around that, I can't control, and that's fine. I'm going to live with that either way, and it's going to be okay. And then I'll move on like to start working on the demo for the Steam Next Fest. I've been thinking a lot about like how to like properly structure it, because again, a part of me was afraid of, how do I make sure that I'm not showing too little or too much of the game? Because again, even with the longer, like with the stages that I made longer, the game is more on the shorter side of things. So making a demo around like a shorter game is kind of tricky, because you have to find a good spot for like, okay, I'm giving people enough like material so that they can get a good impression of the game, without like, okay, here's like the whole game, more or less. And I think I found a good way. And also like another thing that went through my head in that regard was like just not care about that. Because it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, I'm pretty sure. And what this really is like a part of me not being confident enough in the quality of the work that I've produced, that I think that like for some reason withholding stuff from people would encourage them more to like actually buy the game. Like kind of like a part of me, like, and that's again, it's more a confidence thing and not really a way how I go about this, really. But if you think about it, and if you like have the perspective and have the thoughts that my work isn't good enough, and if I show more of it to people, then it's more likely that I'm going to get found out that it's not good enough. So how can I make sure that I'm not going, like, again, and if you follow that logic, the way to like, the way to make sure that like you're not going to get found out is to hide your game basically and not show it to people, because then no one can see how, like, no one can tell you that like it's not good enough or whatever. But again, this is mostly an expression of low confidence in what I've made, and not really a way of like how I actually think about the game, and also like how I want to think about the game and how I want to think about the people that will potentially buy the game, because I don't think that's a healthy approach. Like to think about that I have to somehow deceive people and trick them into buying something that might not be good enough. Like, this is like, again, if you follow that logic, if you follow that train of thought, that's just like a completely unhealthy place to be. So I said to myself, be confident in what you made, be confident in that what you're going to show will be good enough and will will provide enough of a nice experience for people, that they have a good time with it, and also be upfront about what the game is, and don't hide away what the game is, and just like live with the results. Like, again, I set out to like, it's so weird that I keep running into this situation where I keep thinking about ways how to have the game have more content or whatever, when like back when I decided to make the game, I made the deliberate decision to keep it small. And I was only able to get this game into this state and like to keep working on this game back when I like started on it, because I knew the amount of stuff that I have to do is manageable to me at that point. Now I'm much more confident, and I think I could make a bigger game, but I wasn't, like, considering that I went through years of like severe mental health problems and like also general health issues and all that kind of stuff. I was incredibly unsure if I was actually able to make or to finish a project like that. And now I have much more confidence, so that means I can plan a bit larger things into the future, but that doesn't mean that I have to like basically stop or basically try and like cram as much stuff into the game that I have now, because for some reason I'm completely doubting that it's going to be enough. Again, this is like a conflict that's just like in my head for some reason, or like I'm pretty sure I know why it's there, and it's something I have to deal with. And again, and honestly, I'd be much, much happier if people play the game, say that they had a good time, but say, oh, I wish it was longer. Then I would, like, in the scenario where people play the game and say, this feels artificially bloated because someone was too afraid to just to just show the game in the state that they originally wanted to make, and they kept adding like unnecessary stuff around it to basically pad the experience. So again, like, understanding how all of this is mostly a confidence issue, and that I should just like trust what I made and like just give like a good like representation of that piece of work, put it in the demo, show it off, and say, this is like the game. Here are like these stages. The game in the end will have roughly that amount of stages and will be that such and such long, so that people know that after they've played the demo and had a good time and might be interested in the full game, that they know, okay, I'm buying this game, but I also know it's not going to take me 20 hours to complete, but maybe 2 to, I don't know, 3 at best. Because then it's, again, I have trouble really adjusting like my mind to how long the game is going to take to beat, because, and that's really a problem with all kinds of like Mega Man style games, and I talked about it already at a different point. You have this thing where like the more you know what to expect with the game, the quicker you'll get through it, because the challenges that it throws at you, because they're so reliable, you can easily learn them, and like it just gets easier fairly easy fairly quickly because you've learned them, and then you just breeze through them. And that means for me a playthrough takes between 32 and 38 minutes. I can probably, if I like force myself to play it like in less than 30 minutes. I'm pretty sure that it's possible. Never really tried it, but I probably can do it. Doesn't mean that someone who plays the game for the first time takes that long. I'm pretty sure like they'll take around 2 hours to complete it, but I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. So, and that's again plays into the demo, where I'm thinking, okay, how many stages do I want to put in? What kind of stages? And all that. And right now I'm leaning towards like 2 things. One is I'm fairly certain that I'm going to do it. The second one I have to like consider my options if I want to do it, and how much I want to lean into that. So the first thing is I'm going to, like, the demo will have 4 stages, the 4 basically main stages, but the shorter versions that I made earlier during the game's development. So like basically they're like around like half to like 2/3 of like the total stage length that the game, like that the full game is going to have. And my idea behind that is this way I'm going to give people like a fairly broad impression about what the game is. Sure, it's still a fairly huge chunk of the whole game that they're going to see. They will see all of the 4 main boss fights and a lot of the, like, basically the first half of each of the 4 main stages they will completely see. But at the same time, I think that's perfectly fine. Again, be confident in what you've made and just show it off. And the other part that I'm considering is maybe leaning into the you can play through this game fairly quickly thing, and like add a whole thing where the game like visibly tracks your playtime and compares it to basically a part time that I'm going to set basically, and like make a whole thing around like try to beat the game's developer at their own game kind of thing. I'm also thinking about, okay, during the Steam Next Fest I have to like think about, okay, what do I want to stream during that time on the game's page, and like maybe just like an hour of me trying to speedrun the demo would be interesting to some extent, also to just show off the like how ridiculous you can get at this game in terms of like movement and all that stuff, what's in there. So these are kind of like the ideas that I still have to weigh in, but I need to start working on the demo now, because I would like to have this all said and done until like next week, because like the demo has to get into review with Valve, and like press gets like a week earlier access to the whole stuff from the Steam Next Fest, and I would like for everything to be ready at that point. So yeah, there's like stuff that I have to like take care of until then, so I need to start working on this tomorrow, which is why I also need to like finish all my press work and all that kind of stuff today, so that I have enough time to do the demo, try this stuff out, think about like, okay, how much do I want to lean into try to beat the demo as fast as you can, and kind of posing a challenge to people during the festival to some extent, and do that, and just like see how it goes, so I have to prepare all of this anyway, so that's all of that. I didn't really plan on having this like talking this long, but yeah, that's like all like thoughts and ideas that you get when you just ramble on without preparation, I guess. Anyway, so tomorrow, like on September the 9th, I'm going to announce GB Roba's release date. I'm fairly certain like that I'm going to put the new trailer live later today. So maybe you'll get a glimpse at the game's release date there already, because it's mentioned at the end of the trailer. Just because I want to prepare everything a bit before that, but that's just an aside. If you've enjoyed, if you're like interested in the game, or like want to know more about it and want to check it out and all that kind of stuff, please wishlist the game on Steam. It would still help a lot if you could do that. You can also follow @Mokograd on Twitter if you want to keep up with updates and like development stuff and like funny or interesting gifs that I'm posting. I'm starting to post kind of a series of like enemies in the game under the like, and always says like things you can shoot in GB Roba, and then I name the enemy and post a gif of the thing. So that's kind of a thing that I'm doing there right now. You can also subscribe to an email newsletter with more larger announcements. For example, the release date will be announced in that email. You can also subscribe to this YouTube channel, obviously, for more updates and all that kind of stuff. And until then, I hope you have a nice rest of the week, and I see you soon. Bye.